All right, guys, welcome to January 18th pre-recorded Zoom, and we're pretty much just going to be following up everything from Friday. From Friday, when we are looking at DXY from just an overall perspective. Although we have acknowledged that we can potentially still go lower because this solidified low right after the preliminary structure break will only be considered unwillingness fully until this is taken out, but we know that there is an internal reaction present at the moment. So we already discussed our just where we were in terms of direction on Friday, and we know that our medium term is bullish based on the bullish internal trend and the bullish internal transition here, which we already noted on Friday. We acknowledged that there was an internal liquidity grab in here, and that is pretty much what is signaling or what is giving us the internal bullish momentum. But when we start looking at this from a perspective of wanting to really just try to see if we're going to get a bearish transition, from an order flow perspective, this is one of the general areas that makes sense, for me. So, and I'm looking at this from an order flow perspective, we already see obviously mitigation here, internal wick, and then even potentially this candle. But this was the move that gave us the push down to the downside, which was for the reason of obtaining structure, then transitioning into giving us bullish momentum. So I see this as a potential sign, not a potential sign of bullishness, but a potential sign to see whether we are going to continue this bullish trend and continue to take out a previous high from the reaction of the inefficiency field that we had mentioned on Friday. Excuse me. But we could either get that bearish transition, or if we break, we should be expecting to take out these highs. And now after we take out those highs, and by that I mean here, we won't really know what exactly will happen, because of we can't really predict what type of behavior we're going to get as soon as we take out that high. We could get a substantial new high, new structural high, or we can get a type of liquidity grab or no substantial new high, which is just really once again supporting that liquidity grab narrative from a medium perspective, So although we could still say that we are technically long-term, or not long-term, but predominantly we want to see a new leg into the downside, it really will not happen unless we get a bearish transition here, and we get obviously we take out this low, and now we can start to give us that type of bearish momentum. But for the meantime, medium term, we are still bullish, so I can only really take trades from a intraday perspective, and unless I see that fit that overall narrative, I can't really make that judgment. So we're approaching a very interesting area, and that you can see is even evident with EURUSD, that even if we get a bearish transition here, this looks more potentially bearish, potentially more bearish from the internal perspective than this looks bullish, If you were to tell me this is bullish or this could be bullish, I highly doubt that. This, because we have now, look, we've taken out a previous high based on that red line. Excuse me. We have now came to take out preliminary structure. We now have a bearish liquidity grab, So if anything, this one I am more certain, or not certain, but I am more favoring of the bearish bias than I am of the bullish bias with DXY, especially from an intraday perspective. For example, if we start looking at where our opportunities could have presented themselves, there was one, I believe, last night during Asia session. Yes, there was. That was here, and then obviously during London you got the continuation. But The only thing is I can assume, right, a bullish move to the upside, but I really can't justify any type of internal move that'll give me that bearish sentiment or that bullish sentiment. And by that I mean, if we're looking at this, right, if this move had not occurred yet, we're looking at this from an internal bullish trend, and that would be the move based on the bearish transition here, right? But we also have to acknowledge that we are still fully bearish, right? And this is just the beginning of a pullback, and this is all just itself, in and of itself, a pullback. So when this, right, is now our current trend, I'm trying to analyze what could potentially happen from the perspective of an intraday move. So we could say that internally we are bullish. We could say that we have a bullish move here. But if we are to take, right, a bullish move, right, just trying to justify this in terms of any type of order flow continuation, any type of structural reversal, right, I would probably say break of structure, but I would only take a position here because that is basically where my discount is, right? And that's why I always say buy lower, sell higher. But unfortunately you didn't get that, and once this reaction gave you that bullish push, this is now invalidated, right? The only way for me to want to take this would have been a bullish break of structure and a move to the upside. But as you can see, the POI is now been taken out, right? And that now gives us the POI being taken out, meaning there's now a type of order flow disruption in play, right? And if we're looking at this, we're looking at a turbulence point. This generated the move to the downside, pretty much stall, move down, and we're now looking at, right, the bearish continuations, right? Whether it's 50% inefficiency or whether it's waiting for a potential POI to each his own, right? But unfortunately, internally, I'm pretty sure there was nothing to show. I was looking at this, I believe, was it last night? Yes, I believe it was last night. When I was looking at this, right, from an internal POI, right, we see pretty much a whiplash, right, where you see a bearish break of structure, but keep in mind we're still bullish, low, high, retracement, continuation, right? So once this is now taken out, right, we now need, right, a type of bullish, a bearish transition. But as you can see here, there is a bullish liquidity grab, and that was targeting up here. So this is pretty sloppy, just from the perspective of wanting a lower time frame confirmation, or even waiting for this M15 POI to be hit. Right, never even got this to begin with. So although the idea, right, was correct, the execution just simply wasn't there, and that's fine. Predominantly, I care more for getting the direction right above all else, just because that matters more, in my opinion, from a win rate perspective and from trying to get a conservative entry type of perspective. So if I was wanting to set a limit, then I mean, this would have been your entire continuation, right? This would have been what, a 4 or 5, yeah, about a little bit under a 5 pip stop, and that would have generated currently 90 pips, which is already about 118-ish. Yeah, but unfortunately that just didn't happen, and you know, move on to the next. But like we said, right, this has no reason to be bullish at all, in my opinion, because for one, I think we've already wanted to give a bullish move, but that unfortunately was negated by this inefficiency fill, right? And that is pretty much driving price continuously down. So I'm honestly expecting these lows to be cleared eventually within probably the next week or two. It would make a lot of sense. Relative equal lows, right? And that's why I said when we had covered the Zoom, I forgot who it was that I believe it was Sedan. I apologize if I said your name incorrectly, but we were talking about or I forgot who it was, but we were talking about pretty much studying the internal range and trying to play within the range, but we pretty much discredited any type of move outside of a bearish move here. but we were technically no man's land up until we see, right, the bearish liquidity gap, I'm sorry, and we were talking about the discount, which met initial target and then failed. So this seems like now we could see potential. Oh, that's the liquidity gap, but we're seeing a potential, right? I would say we would see, right, price come lower, especially with the narrative being dictated here with the bearish order flow disruption and the recovery into a discount, which it was a discount, I believe. Yep, discount, right? Just until, right, you get into, right, these more deeper retracements, these more discounts from the range present, right? But just keep in mind our overall direction is still bearish, right? Which is why I'm trying to only make plays based on that, right? And as for AU, we are looking at this from, right, the perspective of Friday's move, right? We had discussed this. I even showed you guys the before of that, and you're now seeing it play out, right? So I actually tried to get a continuation in on yesterday, and that was based on here. Let me show you. Yeah, M15 POI, right? The reason why that's attractive, right? The reason why that's attractive is because we have a solidified high here, and we then had the preliminary structure point be taken out. So, right, this had now given me a type of bearish narrative, which, you know, pretty much supported by bearish turbulence point, and I wanted to take, right, my position based on, unfortunately I deleted this before just because it didn't work out in the end, but I was pretty much looking at this in the same way internally, right? Whereas we had, right, our high be taken out, right? And then once our high taken out, we know that we are still internally bullish. So once we see the recovery into a bullish SC, this, right, now picks us up and gives us an internal liquidity grab, but more importantly, in my opinion, not necessarily that, more so importantly, the fact that we have low, high, retracement, solidified low, unwillingness, break of structure. So now this, right, I actually was looking at, delete this, was looking at M5 wick. This was the position, and obviously it's not break even until the leg was taken out, and that was for me here. So unfortunately, that gave me what, 20 pips? Yeah, 11 pips, nothing nice at all, but that eventually gave you a run up into the upside. And I believe it was the M15 POI that it meant. Yes, it did. We see the inefficiency fill, right? If you want to be a lot more specific, you could say M15 wick, and I'm pretty sure you could see something internally as well. Oops, let me take this off. With that being inefficiency fill there, right? But that isn't too important to me. What would have made sense from a conservative perspective, right? I don't really like to take those extremely deep retracements, those extremely deep POIs. I don't really like to take those. But the only way that I could have executed this, which would have been last night, but unfortunately I just wasn't on the chart. We obviously know that internally we are bullish in order to reach this POI. That POI then comes into a retracement, right? But because this is now a solidified high, we now have this, right? But because we now then take out that and take out the full POI, that's a disruption. So let me leave that there. So even though you get the bullish reaction, that is a type of structural disruption, order flow disruption as well, and you get a recovery into a POI. And now it's up to you whether you want to take the aggressive SL, which would have been 2 pips, or 6 pips. That's the only thing that would have made sense yesterday from an Asia session perspective. And as of now, there even was a continuation internally. I just didn't take it. All right, and that was here. This was pretty much what, like an hour ago ish. 9:39. Yeah, 9:39, about an hour ago. But basically what I was seeing here, I'm gonna go to M1, right? We just continuations, just focusing on the continuation, right? I see a previous high, previous multiple highs be taken out, because I also do see this blue line as showing weak order flow. It takes 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 taps, and we still can't generate a substantial new low. Right here, there's 1, 2, 3 substantial new low, immediately retraced. 1, 2, 3, 4 immediate mitigations being 1, 2, 3, and then here, wherever that is 4, right? This is too many mitigations for my liking. So I would need to be very, very conservative with an entry in order for it to make sense. But I just didn't like that at all. And this was the POI that I showed there. And as you can see, it's somewhat working out just because we did take out previous liquidity, but we have not even taken out our previous structure point, and we have taken out the preliminary leg here and here. So this could be seen as potential unwillingness, and this should probably break even if this position was taken. But yeah, I mean, very, very sloppy today. I even pointed that out to you guys today. It was just nothing of interest today, especially because our move occurred during Asia session, which is completely fine. Now it's just a matter of seeing how we will react here. But if I'm being honest, I'm still bearish on this. I'm more bearish on this than I am on EURUSD, just because of the entire trend thing, and we've acknowledged this as being bearish for a good 6 to 9 months, that we've been bearish on this. At least 4 months, I would say, just because we have been bearish, right? And we've been pretty much following this entire move all of Q4 of last year. So I would more so like to see relative equal lows be taken out and seeing that move to the downside. So with that being said, that will conclude today's pre-recorded Zoom, and I'll see you guys in the next one.